for the record.
Sure, it's Jack Wiggum.
Where do you live, Mr. Wiggum?
I live in Los Angeles.
Where, if at all, did you earn your undergraduate degree?
I earned a degree in finance from the University of Florida.
In what year, if any, did you graduate from the University of Florida?
1998.
Do you have any graduate degrees, Mr. Wiggum?
I do. I have a law degree also from the University of Florida and graduated in 2002.
Mr. Wiggum, what do you currently do for a living?
I'm currently a manager representative for artists.
Would you please describe, Mr. Wiggum, for the jury what a manager representative does?
So we, represent writers, directors, actors, actresses, mostly in their pursuit of artistic endeavors. So I primarily focus on film and television, but, all artistic endeavors.
How does a manager representative get paid?
Typically via a commission.
What
so industry standard is kind of 10% of whatever the deal is.
And Mr. Wiggum, what did you do professionally after you earned your JD at the University of Florida?
I was an attorney at a firm called Weil, Gottsville & Manges for approximately 3 years. And then I segued from there to a talent agency. I segued from there to creative artist agency.
In what year did you start work at CAA?
I started there in April of 2004.
And Mr. Wiggum, in what capacity did you start working at CAA?
I started at the bottom, in the mailroom, checking mail, and then became an assistant for one of the managing partners. And then in 2007, I believe I became an agent. And then right around 2014, I think, I began co-running the film and talent department there.
And when your job responsibilities shifted to becoming an agent at CAA, would you please describe briefly for the jury what that entailed?
Sure. We were, also looking out for artistic endeavors on behalf of the clients, so writers, directors, actors, actresses, but we were also negotiating deals and, really pursuing film, television, producing deals on behalf of the clients.
Mr. Wiggum, did there come a time when you left CAA?
I did. I left in August of 2020.
What, if anything, did you do professionally after you left CAA in August of 2020?
So I co-founded a management production company called Range Media Partners in August of 2020 and have been working there ever since.
What type of company is Range Media Partners?
It's a management representation production company.
Do you know Johnny Depp?
I do.
Mr. Wiggum, when did you first meet Mr. Depp?
I actually met him very briefly on the set of Black Mass, which was probably, 2014 or 15, and then I met him very briefly at one of his music shows, but more substantively, I sat with him, I believe in the fall of 2016.
Did there come a time, Mr. Wiggum, when you became Mr. Depp's agent?
Yes.
When was that?
Right around October, I believe, or fall of 2016.
Was that when you were still with CAA?
Yes.
When you first started with Mr. Depp as his agent, who, if anyone, assisted you?
I had two partners that I worked with Johnny. One was Brian Lord and the other was Christian Carino.
Since starting to work with Mr. Depp as his agent in October 2016, have you had opportunities to observe him interacting with yourself and others?
Yes.
How would you describe for the jury Mr. Depp's demeanor on those occasions?
Objection, relevance.
All right. What's the relevance?
The relevance is how he conducts himself professionally, which relates to his reputation, which is at issue.
All right, I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead.
You may answer the question, Mr. Wiggum.
Sure. Johnny was always very nice, sweet, in fact, artistic, polite, and, very thoughtful, kind of uniquely thoughtful about how are you doing? How's your family? He was just a thoughtful person. He always has been.
Did he seem genuine?
Objection leading.
Oh, I'll sustain the objection.
To what extent, if any, did he seem genuine?
I'm going to object. How would he know?
I'm
Speculation.
not sure what objection that is, or
Speculation.
a speculation.
Foundation.
I believe he can testify as to that.
I'll allow it. Go ahead.
Her Honor says you may answer that question.
Okay. I found Johnny to be authentic. It was a genuine kindness.
And Mr. Wiggum, prior to your first becoming Mr. Depp's agent in 2016, October of 2016, who was his agent prior to that?
I believe it was Tracy Jacobs at a company called UTA.
And before you took over from Tracy Jacobs as Mr. Depp's agent, what, if any, research or due diligence did you do with respect to him?
Objection relevance.
Again, Your Honor, it goes to reputation, which is the core of the issue.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Thank you, Your Honor. Were you aware of Mr. Depp's professional reputation at the time you became his agent in October of 2016?
I would say objection leading, and I think it's going to call for hearsay.
I'll overrule at this point. Go ahead.
I believe I was.
What was your understanding, if any, of Mr. Depp's professional reputation at the time you began representing him as his agent in the fall of 2016?
Johnny's reputation, in my opinion, was he was very well regarded and respected by peers in the artistic community.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. First of all, he says in his opinion, which he's not an expert witness, and second, he's now going into hearsay.
No, I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead.
Mr. Wiggum, Her Honor, you may continue.
Well regarded, respected, extremely talented, artistic.
Are you familiar, Mr. Wiggum, with the distinction between an independent film and a studio film?
I believe I am.
What, if any, difference is there between an independent film on one hand and a studio film on the other?
So in layman's terms, I'd say that, a studio film is a bigger budgeted film. It has a distributor, a studio in place. So when you think of Disney, Marvel, Universal, these are big companies. They're bigger budgeted and bigger fees. And then independents, like we call them indies, typically are smaller budgeted, more artistically minded, smaller fees, and often don't have distribution when they're made.
Starting in October 2016, what types of opportunities have you pursued on Mr. Depp's behalf?
A wide variety, primarily I would say focused on film, television, and producing.
What, if any, roles did Mr. Depp have in progress as of that time, fall of 2016, going into calendar year 2017?
All right, so we inherited some deals. It was there was two films, as I remember, that were going to go back to back. One was City of Lies, the Notorious B.I.G. film, and the other was Murder on the Orient Express. So those were filmed almost at the same time, and they had pre-existing deals that we serviced. And then he had Fantastic Beasts, Crimes of Grindelwald as well. And then we were in the process. We ended up finishing the 6th film negotiation on Pirates of the Caribbean.
Mr. Wiggum, you mentioned City of Lies. When was that film actually shot?
To the best of my memory, it was shot right, at the very end, mostly the beginning of 2017.
What was Mr. Depp's compensation for City of Lies?
I believe it was $8 million.
And you mentioned Murder on the Orient Express. When was that shot?
So it was shot at almost the same time. I actually can't remember which one went first. They were both shot predominantly, call it January to April of 2017. I remember us having to work out dates, but it was the beginning of 2017.
What was Mr. Depp's compensation for Murder on the Orient Express?
If memory serves me, I think it was $10 million.
Was Murder a studio film or an independent, or what you call an indie film?
It was a studio film. It was Fox.
Mr. Wiggum, you also mentioned Fantastic Beasts 2: Crimes of Grindelwald. When was that film shot?
I believe that film was shot in the fall of 2017.
What was Mr. Depp's compensation for Crimes of Grindelwald?
Again, that deal predated us. I think it was $13.5 million, if I remember correctly.
Was Crimes of Grindelwald a studio film or an indie film?
It was studio. It was Warner Brothers.
And backing up a bit, Mr. Wiggum, what was the first business opportunity you were able to secure for Mr. Depp after he came to you and CAA in the fall of 2016?
So I believe it was 2017 was it was busy. We had a slot that summer, and he wanted to do a smaller film, and it was The Professor, I believe.
How much compensation, if any, did he receive for performing in that smaller film, The Professor?
That deal was $3.5 million.
Was The Professor an independent film or was it a studio film?
It was independent.
And Mr. Wiggum, how, if at all, was CAA compensated for closing the deal on The Professor?
So it would have been the normal 10% of the deal. So the deal was $3.5 million. The commission would be $350,000 to the agency.
Mr. Wiggum, was 2017 a typical year for Mr. Depp in terms of the workload for an actor of his caliber and track record?
Objection leading.
Overruled, I'll allow it. Go ahead.
And yes.
What other roles, if any, were you able to secure for Mr. Depp during your tenure at CAA before you went to the new company?
A film called Waiting for the Barbarians and a film called Minamata.
When was Waiting for the Barbarians shot?
So Waiting for the Barbarians was fall of 2018.
What, if any, plans did you and Mr. Depp have for 2018, calendar year 2018?
We had a very specific plan for that year because 2017 was busy, and he had done 3 studio films, and I remember him wanting to take time off to rest and be with his kids for the first half of the year, and then he wanted to go on the music tour, which always just made him really happy, and so that was the summer of 2018, and then we had the slot for the fall of 2018, and that's where we spent a lot of time thinking about what that movie was going to be. And Waiting for the Barbarians was kind of a little gift because it was based on a J.M. Coetzee novel, and Johnny's very well read and knew the literature, the underlying book, and Mark Rylance was in the film, and it was just like a dream actor that he always wanted to work with.
What was Mr. Depp paid for Waiting for the Barbarians?
$1 million.
And I apologize if you've already said this. Was Waiting for the Barbarians an independent film or a studio film?
It was an independent.
Mr. Wiggum, you also mentioned the film Minamata. When was that film shot?
That was the very beginning of 2019. So I think January start.
Was Minamata an indie film or a studio film?
It was independent.
How much was Mr. Depp ultimately paid for Minamata?
So his fee became, it was $3 million.
What, if any, role did Mr. Depp play in Pirates of the Caribbean 5?
He played Captain Jack Sparrow.
Was he paid an actor's fee for that film?
Technically, it was before my tenure, but yes, I would assume he was.
Mr. Wiggum, would you please explain for the jury what are residual or back-end rights?
I think the easiest way to explain a back end is it's an ownership stake on behalf of the artist in the success of the movie, and typically is only granted to stars of a certain stature.
And in addition to the fee, Mr. Depp, the upfront fee that Mr. Depp was paid for Fantastic Beasts 5, which I know preceded you, what if any understanding do you have of whether Mr. Depp had any back-end rights for Pirates 5?
Objection, Your Honor. Foundation. He said that deal was at the other agency, and he wasn't.
I'll allow it if he knows it. That's fine. Go ahead.
Her Honor says you may answer the question.
Yeah, so you initially said Fantastic Beasts. I think you meant Pirates 5.
I apologize. I did mean
Yeah.
for Pirates 5, what, if any, back end did Mr. Depp have for Pirates 5?
I don't know what it was. I know that he had one.
To what extent, if any, did Mr. Depp ever have a deal to perform in Pirates 6?
So when we started representing him, I remember Brian Lord and myself finishing a deal that had started at the previous agency.
Objection, Your Honor. May we approach?
Okay. Hold on a minute.
For the interruption, Mr. Wiggum, Her Honor says you may answer the question, which I believe is, to what extent, if any, did Mr. Depp ever have a deal to perform in Pirates 6?
So we finished the deal, and then we closed the deal at $22.5 million for that film, is my memory.
Which studio was involved in the Pirates series, including Pirates 6?
So that was Disney.
Was Disney the studio involved in all of the Pirates movies?
Yes.
What role was Mr. Depp to play in Pirates 6?
Objection calls for speculation
I'll allow it.
and hearsay.
I'll allow it.
Captain Jack Sparrow.
Was the $22.5 million to be paid to Mr. Depp by Disney or by some other entity?
Disney.
And when was that $22.5 million to be paid to Mr. Depp?
It would be paid when he shoots it, we call it principal photography, so when the film shoots.
Who was the producer of the Pirates franchise?
Jerry Bruckheimer?
Does Mr. Bruckheimer work for Disney?
No.
In 2017, to what extent, if any, was Mr. Bruckheimer supportive of Mr. Depp remaining in the Pirates franchise?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for hearsay.
I'll sustain the objection.
Thank you, Your Honor. Putting aside his role in the Pirates films, did Mr. Depp have any other affiliations with Disney in 2017?
Yes.
What were those affiliations?
He, if I remember, in the spring, he went down to Disneyland and put on the Captain Jack Sparrow outfit and wardrobe and went into the ride. He and Disney had worked out a fun little thing where he was going to take the place of the automated, Captain Jack Sparrow on the Pirates ride, and so he would kind of surprise people as they were going along there. And so I remember he did that. And then in May of 2017, he went to Disney Shanghai to help open the Pirates of the Caribbean ride there.
What, if anything, did those affiliations signify about the status of Mr. Depp's relationship with Disney as of that time?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Thank you, Your Honor. To what extent, if any, did Mr. Depp socialize with anyone at Disney in 2017, to the extent you know?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll allow it to the extent he knows.
Do you know whether Mr. Depp socialized with Disney during 2017?
Objection, Your Honor.
I do.
If you could lay foundation to
how do you know that Mr. Depp socialized with Disney in calendar year 2017?
Introducing Buck, the gamer's loyalty app. Play your favorite games with no interruptions and get awesome rewards.
Spring of 2017 with myself, Bruckheimer, and Sean Daly, who was running the film, was president of Disney.
How did the dinner conclude?
Great. Great. Very nice. It was a great dinner.
As of early December 2018, so we're now in December of 2018, what, if anything, was your understanding of the status of whether Mr. Depp would actually appear in Pirates?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for hearsay.
All right. I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Mr. Whitman, there come a time when you saw an op-ed that purportedly written by Amber Heard that appeared in the Washington Post.
Yes.
Mr. Whitman, I would like to show you, please, what was entered previously into evidence as Plaintiff's Exhibit 1. Mr. Goodman, would you please pull up Exhibit 1? And, Your Honor, may we please publish this to the jury as previously. Thank you. Mr. Wiggum, have you ever seen this document before?
Yes.
What is it?
I believe it's the opinionated op-ed in the Washington Post that Ms. Heard.
In Plaintiff's Exhibit 1. And drawing your attention specifically to the third paragraph of the op-ed, Ms. Heard writes, quote, 2 years ago, I became a public figure representing domestic abuse, and I felt the full force of our culture's wrath for women who speak out, unquote. What, if any understanding do you have of that reference?
That it was regarding jhonny and their relationship.
Directing your attention, Tom, if we could just move back up to the first page of Exhibit 1. Directing your attention to the title of the article, quote, Amber Heard, colon, I spoke up against sexual violence, unquote. What, if any, understanding do you have of that reference?
Objection, Your Honor. It's irrelevant what his understanding is.
I'll allow it.
That was
Are there like evil Jersey's real?
that was rather shocking. I remember because it was the first time I'd heard an allegation of sexual abuse.
And against whom was the allegation of sexual abuse?
Objection, Your Honor. How would he know?
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Mr. Wiggum, directing your attention to the 5th paragraph of Plaintiff's Exhibit 1, Ms. Hurd writes, quote, "I had the rare vantage point of seeing in real time how institutions protect men accused of abuse," unquote. To what does that refer?
Objection, Your Honor. How would he know what it was?
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Mr. Gibson, if you would please take down Plaintiff's Exhibit 1. Mr. Wiggum, how, if at all, was Ms. Hurd's op-ed different from other articles about the couple's relationship?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for hearsay foundation.
All right.
Other articles?
Mr. Wiggum, had you seen other articles in the course of your duties as Mr. Depp's agent about Amber Heard and Johnny Depp?
Objection, Your Honor. Still
Yes.
calls for hearsay foundation.
I'll allow it.
Thank you. How, if at all, was the op-ed different from other articles you had read about the Johnny Depp-Amber Heard relationship?
It was a first-person account coming from the victim. It's extremely impactful.
Impactful in a good or bad way?
With respect to Johnny, it was catastrophic because it was coming from a first-person account. It was not from a journalist. It was not from someone observing. It was from someone saying, "This happened to me."
Mr. Wiggum, between December 18, 2018, the date of the op-ed, and October 2020, did Mr. Depp perform in any studio? Did Mr. Depp perform in any studio films?
Sorry, could you just repeat the dates?
Between December 18th of Minamata, the indie film you mentioned.
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for hearsay speculation.
He worked
You're
on
going to
the
approach for a moment.
Sure, yes, Your Honor.
So the op-ed came out in December. In order to save the movie.
Tom, if you would please pull up